She was chased away by the wealthy CEO's family. 6 years later, he saw her with twins who looked just like him. He sees them before he sees her, the twins with his eyes, and the world tilts. The Cedar Ridge Harvest Fair sprawls across Main Street like every October for the past century, but Trent Hollis freezes at the Vaughan and Vine Bakery stall, watching 2 5-year-olds arrange apple cider donuts on a display stand. The boy's concentration furrows his brow exactly the way Hollis does during board meetings. The girl tosses her dark curls over her shoulder with a confidence that stops his heart. Quick pause. Thank you for reaching 500 subscribers. Family, you're building Mr. Steele rich stories with me. If you're new, hit subscribe and drop 500 in the comments so I can thank you personally. Back to Cedar Ridge. Ever run into a past you thought you'd locked away? That moment when history doesn't just knock, it kicks down the door wearing your DNA. He's Trent Hollis, heir-turned-CEO of Hollis Industries, back in Cedar Ridge. After 6 years to oversee a distribution center that employs half the town, she's Tamara Vaughan, the baker who vanished with his unborn children, who left him with questions and the ghost of her silence. By the end of this story, you'll know why she left and what he sacrifices to make it right. The autumn sun catches the boy's eyes, grey-green like looking in a mirror, as he counts change for Mrs. Henderson. 7.53, 7.54, 7.55. Perfect. His sister slides a pink bakery box across the wooden counter, her movements precise, deliberate. Rowan, grab more napkins from Mom, she instructs, already taking. The next order, while her brother disappears behind the tent flap. Hollis can't move. His Italian leather shoes, worth more than most people's rent, feel cemented to the grass. The financial reports in his briefcase, documenting Cedar Ridge's economic viability, suddenly weigh nothing compared to the recognition crushing his chest. Why are your eyes shiny? The girl, Wren, her name tag reads, studies him with an intensity that makes board members squirm. She tilts her head, considering him like a puzzle worth solving. Hollis steadies himself against the corner post of their stall. The sun caught me off guard. Mom says lying makes your nose grow. She grins, revealing a missing front tooth. But yours looks the same size. Before he can respond, Tamara emerges from behind the tent carrying a tray of fresh pastries. She returned to Cedar Ridge 3 months ago, rebuilding what was destroyed, but they haven't crossed paths until this moment. Her hair's shorter now, pulled back in a practical bun that shows the elegant line of her neck. Flour dusts her apron. She looks up, meets his gaze, and the tray trembles. Mommy. Rowan appears at her elbow. You okay? She sets the tray down carefully, each movement measured. Fine, baby. Why don't you and Wren go help Aunt Josie with the cash register? But we're doing good here. Now, please. The twins exchange glances, some silent communication Hollis recognizes from his own childhood with his brother Marcus. They disappear into the tent's depths, but not before Wren throws one last curious look over her shoulder. We need to talk, Tamara says quietly, already moving. Not here. She leads him behind the tent to a small cleared space between vendor vehicles. Away from the crowds and cameras and carefully maintained public faces, the sounds of the fair fade to distant music and laughter. She crosses her arms, creating armor from thin air. You weren't supposed to be here today. The company's scheduled. The company. She laughs, but there's no humor in it. Still planning every moment of your life? You came back 3 months, and you didn't what? Send you an engraved announcement? You made your position clear 6 years ago when your family erased me from Cedar Ridge. I didn't know. The words come out raw. About any of it. About them. Because your family made sure you wouldn't. She pulls her phone from her apron pocket, scrolls through photos until she finds one. A screenshot of elegant letterhead, his grandfather's distinctive signature, delivered the morning after you flew to Tokyo for that merger. The lease on my grandmother's building suddenly required immediate payment. The health inspector, who found violations that didn't exist. The bus ticket with a clear message, leave or lose everything. My grandfather, Gregory, did this? Not personally. He had lawyers for the dirty work. Mr. Dwyer from Dwyer and Cole was very polite while destroying my life. The fair continues around them, children shrieking on rides, vendors calling their wares, but Hollis hears none of it, only the echo of words that rewrite history. The bus ticket was prepaid to Seattle, she continues, voice steady as stone. First class, one way. But I got off in Columbus, then made my way to Harbor Point, Ohio. Somewhere your family couldn't find me. I had 2 pink lines on a test, and a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. You were pregnant when you left. 8 weeks. Morning sickness and terror in equal measure. She meets his eyes. I tried to tell you. Wrote a letter explaining everything. But your grandfather intercepted it the morning I planned to mail it. Made it clear that returning would mean legal action. Custody battles I couldn't afford to fight. So you raised them alone. Not alone. Harbor Point gave me Agnes Porter, who became the grandmother they needed. A community that didn't care about my past. A chance to build Vaughn and Vine from nothing. And now you're back, because Cedar Ridge is home, because my grandmother Lila is here, because my children deserve to know where they come from, even if their father was kept in the dark about their existence. Hollis processes this. 6 years of not knowing, of being deliberately excluded from his own children. His lives by the man who taught him everything about business and nothing about what matters. What are their names? He asks quietly. Rowan and Wren. They turned 5 last May. Rowan wants to write books about dragons. Wren believes in physics that feels like magic. They're perfect and they're mine, and I won't let anyone use them as corporate leverage. I would never. You wouldn't, but your family would. Your mother already tried offering money for me to disappear again. Your grandfather's lawyers are probably drafting custody strategies. I know how the Hollis family operates. Let me fix this. You can't fix 6 years, Trent. You can only decide what happens next. Hollis asks, what happened after you left? And waits like a man who knows the answer will rearrange his life. 6 years earlier, the Bluebird Diner opened at 5:30 sharp every morning, and Tamara Vaughn arrived. At 5:29 with her grandmother's recipe notebook held together by rubber bands and hope. Coffee's fresh, honey, Darla Klein called from behind the counter, already pouring a mug without asking. 23 years running the Bluebird made her fluent in caffeine needs. You're experimenting again? Tamara slid onto the cracked vinyl stool at the counter's end, her usual spot where the morning light hit just right for reading faded ink, lavender honey scones. Grandma's handwriting says 2 drops of essence, but I can't tell if that's 2 or 20. Your grandmother could make cardboard taste divine. Darla refilled a trucker's coffee, 3 stools down. But she never wrote anything clear in her life. I once tried her apple pie recipe, spent 4 hours wondering if some sugar meant a cup or a handful. The notebook pages, yellowed and soft from decades of kitchen steam, contained 3 generations of Vaughn women's baking secrets. Tamara traced a finger over a note in the margin. Love makes everything rise better. Her mother had written that before the cancer took her, when Tamara was 7 and learning to braid dough. She pulled a napkin from the dispenser, an old habit from childhood when her mother would transform paper squares into birds during chemotherapy waits. Her fingers moved automatically. Fold, crease, pull. A crane emerged, delicate and precise. Still making those? Darla watched her set it beside the coffee mug. Your mama would smile seeing you keep the bakery dream alive. Barely alive. Tamara turned a page in the notebook, finding her grandmother's bourbon pecan pie recipe. The rent increase last month nearly finished us. If I can't create something special for the harvest fair, you will. Darla's certainty cut through doubt like a warm knife through butter. Vaughn women don't surrender. It's written in your bones. The bell above the door chimed, announcing the morning rush. Construction workers heading to the new Hollis Industries Distribution Center site, nurses changing shifts at Cedar Ridge General, teachers preparing for another day at the elementary school where Tamara once won the spelling bee with perseverance. She folded another crane while studying a recipe for maple brown butter cookies, the paper bird joining its twin on the counter. By the time she finished her coffee, 3 more cranes stood guard around her notebook, a small paper army against uncertainty. You know what your problem is? Darla paused beside her with the coffee pot. You're trying to follow recipes instead of trusting your gut. Your grandmother never measured a thing in her life. She also never had to compete with chain stores and corporate bakeries moving into town. No, she just had the Depression, 2 wars, and a husband who gambled away the shop twice. Darla squeezed her shoulder. You come from survivors, Tamara Vaughan. Don't forget that. Tamara closed the notebook, securing it with the rubber bands that had held her family. History together through bankruptcies and births, festivals and funerals. Tomorrow she'd try the lavender scones again, maybe with 15 drops instead of 2. For now she left the paper cranes on the counter like an offering, not knowing that in 3 hours a stranger would walk in and change everything with a quarter and a question about the jukebox. The summer stretched ahead, full of possibility and the smell of rising dough. Everything still felt possible then. The jukebox at the Bluebird hadn't worked properly since 1987, but that didn't stop the stranger from feeding it a quarter at 8:43 that morning. It only plays B-sides, Tamara said without looking up from her notebook, now spread across her regular booth in the back corner, and only when it feels charitable. Sounds like my kind of machine. The voice carried warmth and expensive education in equal measure. Temperamental and honest. She glanced up to find a man in jeans and a Penn State t-shirt, the clothes so obviously new the creases still showed. His watch, though, that was genuine wear, an old Timex that had seen better decades. Tourist? She asked. Something like that. He gestured to the empty bench across from her. Mind if I sit? Counter's full, and Darla says you know everything worth knowing about this town. Darla exaggerates, but she moved her papers aside, making room. He ordered pancakes and black coffee, then noticed the paper crane she'd been folding while reviewing supply costs. That's delicate work, nervous habit. She finished the last fold, setting the crane upright between them. My mother taught me during her treatments. Said it gave our hands something hopeful to do while we waited. I'm sorry. The sympathy sounded genuine, not the practiced condolence she usually heard. How long ago? 16 years. But the cranes stuck around. She started another from the napkin dispenser, her fingers moving without thought. You're not really a tourist, are you? What gave me away? Your shoes. She nodded at his feet. Expensive hiking boots that have never seen a trail. The watch doesn't match the rest, and you're too comfortable here, like you're rehearsing a part. He laughed, surprising them both. Guilty. I'm exploring. Seeing this place from ground level before. He stopped himself, just seeing it differently. Before what? Before things change. He watched her complete another crane. Would you show me the real Cedar Ridge, not the Chamber of Commerce version? She studied him over her coffee mug. Why? Because you make paper cranes in a diner at 8 in the morning and call out pretenders in $100 boots. Because Darla, who doesn't trust anyone under 40, told me you're the heart of this place. Because I need to understand something, and I think you might help me see it. That night, she took him to the water tower. They climbed the rusted ladder in darkness, emerging onto the narrow platform where generations of Cedar Ridge teenagers had carved initials and made promises. The whole town spreads out from here, she said, pointing to lights below. There's the bakery, mine, that square of yellow. The distribution center is going up on the east side. The elementary school where I learned that dreams don't expire, they just take longer routes. What did you dream of? He stood close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive trying to hide beneath drugstore soap. Studying in Paris, making pastries in rooms older than this entire country. She touched a carved heart on the railing. Instead, I make donuts and balance books and try to keep my grandmother's legacy breathing. What about you? What's your real dream, not the one you're supposed to have? To matter, he said quietly. To build something that helps instead of destroys. To be more than a name and expectations. Neither asked for last names that night. It felt like a gift, being strangers who could tell the truth. 3 weeks later, Tamara stood in the Bluebird's kitchen teaching Trent her grandmother. as secret to flaky pie crust when the noon news destroyed everything. Breaking news from the financial sector, the mounted TV announced. Hollis Industries confirms massive expansion into rural Pennsylvania, with CEO Gregory Hollis calling it a new frontier in distribution efficiency. Trent's hands stilled on the dough. The expansion, spearheaded by Trent Hollis, the company's heir and chief strategy officer, includes revolutionary automation that could reduce workforce needs by 60%. His picture filled the screen. Not the man in drugstore jeans she'd been falling for, but someone in Italian suits at charity galas, shaking hands with senators, standing beside his grandfather while accepting business awards. The caption read, Trent Hollis, 29, Chief Strategy Officer, Hollis Industries. Darla dropped a plate. The crash echoed through the suddenly silent diner. You're him. Tamara's voice came from somewhere outside her body. You're the reason half this town's about to lose their jobs. I can explain. Explain? She yanked off her apron, flour clouding the air between them. Explain how you've been doing what? Studying us, like specimens, seeing how the locals live before you dismantle their livelihoods. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Trent Hollis? She emphasized his name like an accusation. Tell me what it's like to pretend to care about our stories while planning our destruction. The diner had gone to the cemetery quietly. Every regular, people who'd watched her grow up, who'd bought her Girl Scout cookies, and attended her mother's funeral, stared at the man they'd welcomed for 3 weeks. The automation plan isn't final, he said. That's why I came. To understand what poverty looks like up close, to see how regular people live before you grind them under your privilege, to find a different way. His voice cracked. To convince my grandfather there are alternatives. Get out. She pointed to the door. And don't come back. He reached for her hand, but she jerked away. Tamara, please. What we have is a lie built on your entertainment. I showed you my mother's grave. I took you to places that matter to me. And the whole time, you were gathering data for a corporate presentation. I fell in love with you. The words landed like stones in still water. That wasn't part of any plan. Love? She laughed, bitter as burnt coffee. You don't know what love means. Love is staying when things get hard. Love is choosing people over profit. Love is truth from the very beginning. He pulled out his wallet, left $200 on the counter. For the pie crust lesson, he said quietly. And everything else you taught me. After he left, Darla found Tamara in the kitchen, surrounded by paper cranes she didn't remember folding. Honey, I'm a fool. Tamara swept the cranes into the trash. I actually believed someone like him could care about someone like me. Now you listen here. Darla grabbed her shoulders. You're Tamara Vaughn. Your grandmother served pie to Eleanor Roosevelt. Your mother fought cancer for 3 years longer than anyone thought possible. You don't let men in expensive suits make you feel small. But that night, alone in her apartment above the bakery, Tamara admitted the truth to herself. She'd fallen in love with him too. The real him, the one who'd existed in those moments between lies. The invitation arrived by courier the next morning, cream cardstock so thick it felt like currency. The Hollis Foundation requests your presence at the annual Harvest Gala, Saturday, 8 p.m., the Fairmont Hotel, Philadelphia. A handwritten note was tucked inside. Please come, let me show you who I really am. T. Against every instinct, she went, borrowed a dress from her cousin in Harrisburg, drove 3 hours in her uncle's Camry, and walked into a ballroom that cost more to rent than her bakery made in a year. She spotted him immediately, standing beside a woman who could only be his mother. Same sharp cheekbones, same way of occupying space like they owned it. You must be the baker. Vivian Hollis materialized beside her, the champagne flute balanced like a weapon. Trent's summer project. I'm Tamara Vaughn. Yes, dear. The girl from that quaint little town. How refreshing. She sipped her champagne, eyes dissecting Tamara from hair to shoes. I admire your luck coming here. Though I'm not sure you quit. Fit. Mother. Trent appeared, jaw tight. Don't. I'm simply being helpful, darling. Miss Vaughan should understand the realities before she develops expectations. What realities? Tamara kept her voice steady. That men like my son have obligations, expectations, suitable matches that strengthen portfolios and pedigrees. Vivian's smile could have frozen blood. Not summer diversions with small-town bakers who make, donuts. Vivian. A man's voice, quiet but commanding. Gregory Hollis Sr. stood behind his daughter-in-law, and Tamara saw where Trent got his height, his presence. That's enough. I'm protecting our family. You're embarrassing us. And yourself. Gregory offered Tamara his hand. Miss Vaughan. I've heard about your bakery. 3 generations of women-owned business. That's admirable. Until your expansion makes it irrelevant, she said. He studied her with eyes that had negotiated billion-dollar deals. Direct. I appreciate that. Trent, show Miss Vaughan the terrace. Your mother and I need to discuss tomorrow's board meeting. Outside, the Philadelphia skyline glittered like promises nobody intended to keep. Trent loosened his bow tie, looking younger and more lost than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry about her. She's right. Tamara turned to face him. She's right. We don't fit. This, she gestured at the gala, the gowns, the casual millions. This is your real world. Cedar Ridge was just summer vacation. You don't believe that. It doesn't matter what I believe. What matters is what is. She touched his face, memorizing it. Go back inside, Trent. Dance with someone suitable. Build your empire. Forget the girl who taught you to make pie crust. I can't forget you. You will. People like you always do. She left him on the terrace, walked through the ballroom with her head high, past Vivian's satisfied smile and Gregory's calculating gaze. In the parking garage, she sat in the borrowed Camry and cried for 20 minutes before driving home. 2 days later, she missed her period. A week after that, 2 pink lines changed everything. The morning she planned to tell Trent, the lease notice arrived, not from Gregory himself, but from his lawyer, Mr. Dwyer. By sunset, she was packing everything she could carry, one hand pressed to her still. Flat stomach, the other holding a paper crane, the last one she'd make for 6 years. A sleek car idles at Lila Vaughan's curb, and kindness arrives in the shape of a threat. The Blacktown car parked outside Vaughan Bakery at 7:15 on a Tuesday morning, 3 days after Tamara discovered she was pregnant. Mr. Dwyer stepped out, grey suit immaculate, despite Cedar Ridge's humidity. His briefcase cost more than her monthly rent, and his smile belonged in a funeral parlor. Miss Vaughan, I'm Harold Dwyer, Dwyer & Cole LLP. Might we speak privately? She led him through the bakery, past the morning's first batch of cinnamon rolls cooling on racks, to the small office where 3 generations of Vaughan women had balanced books and dreams in unequal measure. Coffee? She offered, though her stomach churned. No need. This won't take long. He placed a folder on her desk, movements precise as surgery. I represent interests concerned about your well-being. Whose interests? Parties who prefer discretion. He opened the folder, revealing her lease agreement. Yellow highlighter marked the month-to-month clause her grandmother had agreed to decades ago. You're aware this arrangement could be terminated with 30 days' notice? My family's paid rent on time for 60 years. Admirable. However, circumstances change. He produced a second document. The building owner received an extremely generous offer to sell. Cash, above market value. They're inclined to accept unless what? Unless current tenants relocate voluntarily. Avoiding messy evictions preserves property values. His smile never wavered. We'd like to help make your transition smooth. There's a bus ticket to Seattle, prepaid apartment for 6 months, and a small business loan pre-approved for wherever you choose to land. And if I refuse, then market forces take their course. Inspections become stringent. Suppliers receive better offers elsewhere. Customers hear unfortunate rumors. He stood, leaving the folder. You have 48 hours to consider. My clients value swift, quiet resolutions. After he left, Tamara found her hands shaking too badly to pipe frosting. The morning's rolls burned while she stared at the Seattle bus ticket, departure date 3 days away. Within 24 hours, Cedar Ridge turned Arctic. Henderson's Dairy called first. "Really sorry, Tamara, but we're exclusively contracting with larger accounts now. Economy, you understand." Then Garrett's Grain. Minimum orders gone up. £500 or nothing. New policy. By noon, 3 suppliers had cancelled standing orders. The landlord, Mr. Chen, arrived at 2 with a typed list of complaints. Noise violations, customers being disruptive. Tamara read the fabricated grievances. "Mrs. Chen bought eclairs here yesterday. She said the new raspberry filling was perfect. Things change." He wouldn't meet her eyes. Maybe find a quieter location. Better for everyone. The rumors started that afternoon. Josie heard them first at the post office. Tamara had taken money from the Hollis family. She was Trent's paid mistress. The bakery was a front for their arrangement. "It's garbage and everyone knows it," Josie said, finding Tamara crying in the storeroom. "Nobody who matters believes. Everyone believes the worst when money's involved." Tamara wiped her face with her apron. "By tomorrow, they'll say I trapped him. By Thursday, I'll be the fortune hunter who tried to bring down Cedar Ridge's golden boy." That evening, she made her last batch of brown butter cookies in the Vaughan bakery kitchen. Each fold of dough felt like goodbye. The oven timer sounded like an ending. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text contained a single line. 48 hours becomes 24. Decide. She packed through the night. 3 suitcases held 6 generations of recipes. Her mother's pearl, necklace, photos of the bakery through decades of harvest fairs. Everything else stayed behind. The copper molds, the industrial mixer her grandmother had saved for during the Depression, the wooden sign painted by her mother's hands. At dawn, she stood in the empty bakery one last time. The walls held the ghost of cinnamon and vanilla, of wedding cakes and birthday celebrations, of her mother teaching her to fold croissants when her hands were still too small for the rolling pin. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the empty room, to her mother's memory, to the child growing inside her. "I'm so sorry." She wrote the letter at her kitchen table, using the good stationery her mother had saved for important occasions. "Trent, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Please don't look for me. What we had was real, but it exists in a world that doesn't allow for us. Your family made their position clear. I won't be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. I won't be the small-town scandal that follows your career. There's something you should know." She stopped, pen hovering over the words that would change everything. How could she tell him about the baby when his family's lawyers were already dismantling her life? They'd take this child, wrap it in money and expectations, strip away everything that made Cedar Ridge home. She crumpled the page, started again. This time, just 3 lines. "Don't blame yourself. Be the man you showed me at the water tower, the one who wanted to matter. Cedar Ridge needs that version of you." She sealed the envelope, addressed it to the Bluebird Diner, where Darla would make sure he received it. But when she stepped outside, a black Mercedes blocked her path. Gregory Hollis Sr. emerged, no pretense of warmth in his expression. "Going somewhere, Miss Vaughan?" "To mail a letter to my grandson." He held out his hand. "I'll save you the postage. It's private correspondence. Nothing about this situation is private. You've made sure of that by refusing our generous offer." He stepped closer. "The letter, Miss Vaughan. Then the bus. Those are your only options now." She handed him the envelope. I watched him pocket it without reading it. "The bus leaves in 3 hours, he said. "Be on it. Don't contact my grandson. Don't return to Cedar Ridge. In exchange, your grandmother's recipes can travel with you. Start over somewhere else. Forget this happened. He'll ask questions. I'll handle Trent. You handle your exit." The Mercedes pulled away, leaving her standing on the sidewalk with one suitcase and the end of everything she'd known. The Greyhound station bathroom smelled like industrial disinfectant and surrendered dreams. Tamara sat on the closed toilet lid, staring at the second pregnancy test she'd bought to confirm what she already knew. 2 pink lines, clear as accusation, bright as hope she couldn't afford. Outside the stall, someone's child laughed at something on their phone. Normal families heading to normal places for normal reasons. Not 25-year-old women running from love that came with legal threats attached. She pressed a hand to her stomach, still flat, holding a secret that would show itself soon enough. "It's just us now," she whispered. "You and me against whatever comes next." The bus to Seattle departed at noon. She found a window seat near the back, watched Cedar Ridge disappear mile by mile. The Hollis Industries distribution center rose like a monument to progress on the east side of town. The water tower where she'd shared truths with a man who'd lied caught the midday sun. An older woman across the aisle noticed her crying. "You okay, honey?" Starting over, Tamara managed. That's either the worst thing or the best thing, depending on how you look at it. The woman offered a tissue. "I started over at 40. My husband left me for his secretary. But I ended up in Portland, opened a yarn shop, met the actual love of my life at 62. Sometimes the bus out of town is the bus towards something better." Tamara changed buses in Pittsburgh. The Seattle ticket felt like a trap, so she studied the departure board until a destination caught her eye: Columbus, Ohio. From there, another bus to a town called Harbor Point on Lake Erie's edge. By the time she reached Harbor Point, she'd folded 17 paper cranes from napkins and receipts, leaving them on buses like breadcrumbs she'd never follow back. Harbor Point sat on Lake Erie's edge, close enough to water to remind her of possibilities. Far enough from Pennsylvania that the Hollis name meant nothing. She found a room above a Chinese restaurant, got a job at a local bakery, and began the slow work of building a life from scratch. Agnes Porter owned the Harbor Point Bakery and had survived 3 husbands, 2 bankruptcies, and a fire that should have ended everything. "You're pregnant," she announced Tamara's 3rd day of work. "Don't deny it. I've got a sense about these things." "How did you—" "Honey, you turn green at the smell of eggs cooking, and you've got that look, terrified and determined in equal measure. When are you due?" "May. Father in the picture?" "No." Agnes studied her for a long moment. "Good. Raising babies is easier without dealing with complicated men. Are you planning to stay?" "I don't know what I'm planning." "Then plan this. Work here until you deliver. After that, we'll see about making you a partner. This place needs young blood, and you need a future that doesn't involve running." Over the following months, Agnes became the mother Tamara had lost, the grandmother she'd left behind. When morning sickness kept her from working, Agnes covered her shifts. When she couldn't afford prenatal vitamins, they appeared in her apartment. When she cried over Trent's pictures in business magazines, Agnes held her without asking questions. The twins arrived during a spring storm, Rowan first, stubborn and loud, then Wren, quiet and watchful. Agnes stood as their unofficial grandmother, teaching Tamara to nurse 2 babies. At once, to survive on no sleep, to love so fiercely it felt like drowning. "Vaughn and Vine," Agnes suggested when Tamara finally talked about opening her own place. "Vaughn for your heritage, Vine for how things grow when they're planted right." The logo came from Wren's first drawing, wonky letters surrounded by flowering vines that looked like hope spreading across paper. By the twins' 2nd birthday, Vaughn and Vine had a storefront, regular, customers, and a reputation for pastries that tasted like happiness. Tamara learned to smile without thinking of grey-green eyes, to build without looking back. Almost. 6 years of silence calcifies into fate until a county development invite brings Hollis back to Cedar Ridge, and Tamara decides it's time to come home. Behind the vendor tent, between a van loaded with unsold apple turnovers and a stack of empty crates, Tamara established the New World Order. "If you want any part of their lives, we do this my way." Her voice carried the authority of 6 years raising twins alone. No photographers, no announcements, no Hollis Industries lawyers showing up with documents. Agreed. Trent stood carefully still, like sudden movements might make her disappear again. "You don't introduce yourself as their father, not yet. They think their dad was someone who had to leave before they were born, which isn't entirely a lie." "What do they know about me?" "Nothing specific. I told them their father had important work far away, that he would have loved them if he could have known them. She crossed her arms, armor against the way he looked at her. I wasn't going to let them grow up thinking they weren't wanted. They were always wanted. If I had known. But you didn't. Because your grandfather made sure of that. She watched him absorb this truth, and saw the moment he understood the full scope of his family's intervention. The letter I wrote you, the one explaining everything, Gregory took it, paid me a personal visit to ensure I got on that bus. His hands clenched. He had no right. He had every right according to him. Protecting the Hollis legacy from complications. The old hurt flickered, then steadied. But that's history. What matters now is them. Rowan and Wren don't need the drama of discovering their father is Cedar Ridge's most powerful family's heir. Then what do they need? She studied him, older now, wearing responsibility more naturally, but still the man who'd climbed the water tower to see stars. Time, consistency. Someone who shows up and keeps showing up, even when it's inconvenient. I can do that. Can you? When the board meetings run late? When do mergers need attention? When does your mother object? Yes. No hesitation. I've spent 6 years building kingdoms that feel like prisons. If you're giving me a chance to know them, to know you again, then yes. To all of it. This isn't about us, she said quickly. Whatever we were, that's done. This is about 2 5-year-olds who deserve better than becoming pawns in Hollis family politics. Understood. But his eyes said different things, made promises she wasn't ready to hear. And Trent, if your family tries anything, lawyers, custody threats, money offers, I'll take them so far away you'll never find us again. They won't. I'll make sure of it. See that you do. They returned to the stall where the twins were helping Josie count change, their small fingers sorting quarters from dimes with serious concentration. Rowan, Wren, Tamara called. Come here for a minute. They scrambled over, and Trent dropped to his knees in the grass, bringing himself to their eye level. The gesture was automatic, unpracticed, somehow perfect. This is Mr. Trent, Tamara said carefully. He's a friend of Mama's from before you were born. Wren tilted her head, studying him with unnerving focus. From when you lived in the other place, the one with the big tower, you told them about Cedar Ridge? Trent glanced at Tamara. Some stories are worth keeping. She touched Wren's shoulder. Yes, baby. From here, actually. Before Mama moved to Harbour Point, Rowan stepped forward, all confidence and curiosity. Do you know about dragons? I'm writing a book about dragons, but I need to know if they prefer gold or silver for their hoards. Gold, Trent answered seriously. Definitely gold. It holds heat better and makes for warmer nests. That's what I said. Rowan turned to his sister triumphantly. Told you, but silver's prettier, Wren protested. Both can be true, Trent offered. Maybe different dragons like different things. What do you think? They launched into an elaborate discussion about dragon preferences, and Tamara watched. Trent navigate their personalities, Rowan's bold assertions, Wren's quiet observations. He listened more than he spoke, asked questions that made them think, never talked down to them. Can you juggle? Rowan asked suddenly. No, but I can make paper airplanes that fly backwards. Prove it. He took a napkin from the stall's dispenser, fingers moving with unexpected grace. The plane that emerged had swept wings and a curved nose. He launched it gently, and it circled back, landing at Wren's feet. Magic, she breathed. Physics, Trent corrected gently. But physics can feel like magic when you understand it right. Will you teach us? Rowan is already reaching for napkins. If your mom says it's okay. They turned to Tamara in unison, hope shining in eyes that matched the man kneeling in the grass. Maybe, she said, the word feeling like a door opening. We'll see. That means yes. Rowan declared. Mama always says, we'll see, when she means yes but wants to sound careful. Tamara couldn't help but smile. Mama also says, we'll see, when she means ask me later after I think about it. Which one is this? Wren asked. Tamara looked at Trent and saw genuine joy in his expression. The first one. This time, The camera flash came from behind the jewelry stall, bright and invasive as lightning. Maya Cortez stood there, iPhone raised, already typing what would undoubtedly become social media wildfire, Hollis Ayres' secret family. Trent moved faster than thought, positioning himself between the phone and the twins, his body a wall of expensive fabric and controlled fury. "Not today," he said quietly, but the words carried boardroom authority. "Public fare, public figures," Maya countered, still typing. "People deserve to know what Cedar Ridge's golden boy has been hiding. Their children." Tamara stepped beside him, maternal fury radiating. "Whatever story you think you have, you leave them out of it." That's when the town closed ranks. Patrice Hale, who'd run the flower shop for 30 years, suddenly needed to move her entire display, conveniently blocking Maya's view. Helena Brooks from the quilting circle appeared with a massive patchwork that required immediate hanging, creating a fabric wall. "Maya Cortez," Darla's voice cut through the tension. "Didn't your mama raise you better than to photograph children without permission? This is news. This is harassment." Sheriff Wade appeared, uniform casual but presence unmistakable. "The fair has strict rules about photography of minors. Need me to review them with you?" Maya lowered her phone, but her expression promised this wasn't over. "People talk, Tamara. Secrets this big don't stay buried." "Then let them talk," Tamara said. "But they won't use my children as ammunition." After Maya retreated, Trent turned to the informal wall of townspeople protecting them. "Thank you. We protect our own," Patrice said simply. "Tamara came back home 3 months ago. She's always been Cedar Ridge. You might be too if you prove it right." The twins, oblivious to the adult drama, had discovered a butterfly on the flower display. Wren approached it slowly, speaking in whispers only she understood. Rowan stood guard, ready to defend his sister's moment of wonder. "They're remarkable," Trent said softly. "They're everything," Tamara corrected. "And if being near you puts them at risk—" "It won't. I'll make sure of it. You can't control everything, Trent, not even with all your family's power." "No," he agreed, watching Wren successfully coax the butterfly onto her finger. "But I can try to be worth the risk. Trying isn't enough. You have to actually do it. Then watch me." The walk from town center to the old Vaughan place took 12 minutes, but felt like crossing years. Rowan held Trent's hand, chattering about school starting next week, about his best friend, Marcus, named coincidentally not after Trent's brother, who could burp the alphabet. Wren walked beside Tamara, occasionally glancing at Trent with curious eyes that missed nothing. "That's our house," Rowan announced, pointing ahead. "Grandma Lila says it's been Vaughan property since forever." The craftsman cottage looked exactly as Trent remembered. Wraparound porch, blue, shutters, garden overwhelming its boundaries with late summer abundance. Lila Vaughan stood on the porch, watering hanging baskets, her grin visible from the sidewalk. "Well, well," she called. "Look what the fair brought home. Mrs. Vaughan." Trent stopped at the gate, suddenly 23 again, asking permission to date her granddaughter. "It's still Lila, boy. Don't go getting formal with me now." She set down the watering can. "Kids, go wash up. Dinner's in 20 minutes. "Is Mr. Trent staying?" Wren asked. "Not tonight, baby." Tamara guided them toward the door. "Go on." They disappeared inside, Rowan's voice carrying through windows, already telling Lila about the backwards airplane. Under the porch light, the same one that had illuminated their first kiss years ago, Tamara and Trent stood in careful silence. "Thank you," she finally said, "for how you were with them, for blocking Maya, for not pushing too hard. When can I see them again?" "Tomorrow's Sunday. We go to the park after church, usually around 2. Nothing formal, just feeding ducks and playing on swings. Can I come?" She studied him, this man who'd shattered her world and might now help rebuild it. "As my friend, nothing more. Not yet. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. Don't make promises you can't keep, Trent. They've had enough people leave." "I'm not leaving." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Different now, but somehow still familiar. I lost you once because I didn't fight hard enough. I won't make that mistake again. This isn't about us. I know. But maybe while we're doing right by them, we might find our way back to each other. She didn't answer, couldn't with Lila watching from the window, and her heart doing treacherous things in her chest. 2 o'clock, she said instead. Don't be late. He walked backward down the path, keeping her in sight until the garden gate closed between them. Above them, the porch light flickered once, like it remembered everything too. Would you let him back in after 6 years? Comment, shortcut if you'd rush it, or slow road if you'd set boundaries. If this reunion got you, tap like so more folks find Mr. Steele rich stories. A black sedan with the Hollis crest pulls up to the Vaughan porch, Vivian Hollis with winter in her voice. The black sedan arrived at 7:45, after the twins were in bed, but the golden hour still painted Cedar Ridge in forgiving light. Vivian Hollis emerged like winter entering summer, her cream suit too pristine for small-town dust. Tamara didn't rise from the porch swing. Mrs. Hollis, Miss Vaughan, though perhaps it's Mrs. something else now. Vivian's eyes swept the porch, cataloguing worn floorboards and chipped paint like evidence. Still Miss Vaughan, still none of your business. Everything involving my son becomes my business. Vivian climbed the steps uninvited, heels clicking authority. Maya Cortez sent interesting photographs. 2 children who look remarkably like Hollis family portraits. Children exist. Some have inherited eyes. Don't insult my intelligence. Vivian positioned herself against the porch railing, backdropped by Tamara's grandmother's roses. DNA tests can be court-ordered. Courts require grounds. Being curious isn't grounds. Being a grandmother is. The word hung between them, sharp as broken glass. Inside, Tamara heard Lila reading bedtime stories, Rowan interrupting with questions, Wren giggling at character voices. You see a discovery, Tamara said evenly. I see a family, one that functioned perfectly without Hollis intervention for 6 years. 6 years of depriving my son of his children. There are legal terms for that. Yes, survival, protection, self-preservation after your father-in-law's lawyer made clear what happened to women who complicated the Hollis trajectory. Vivian's composure cracked slightly. Gregory acted without my knowledge, but not against your wishes. You told me at the gala I didn't fit, remember? That men like Trent had suitable matches that strengthened portfolios. I was protecting your interests, not his happiness. Certainly not mine. Tamara stood, meeting Vivian's height in determination, if not designer heels. But we're past that now. The question is what happens next. They stared at each other across class divides that felt continental. Behind Vivian, fireflies began their evening dance, indifferent to human drama. What do you want? Vivian finally asked. Money, recognition, the fairy tale ending where the baker marries the prince. I want what I've always wanted. Peace. Safety for my children. A life without lawyers delivering threats disguised as opportunities. And Trent? Trent gets to earn what he wants. Same as anyone else. You think you hold all the cards now. I think I hold 2 5-year-olds who deserve better than becoming weapons in whatever war you're planning. Vivian studied her with eyes that had navigated Fortune 500 boardrooms. You're stronger than I expected. Necessity does that. We'll see how long that strength lasts. Would you like to know what really happened? Tamara pulled her phone from her pocket, scrolled to the photos she'd kept like evidence. Or do you prefer the version where I'm the villain? She showed Vivian everything, screenshots of Dwyer's letter, the lease threats, the suppliers who'd mysteriously cancelled contracts, bank statements showing costs that forced her grandmother to remortgage, the bus ticket timestamp, the rental agreement in Harbour Point, dated 3 days after leaving Cedar Ridge. Gregory didn't just encourage me to leave. He orchestrated a situation where staying meant losing everything, including the ability to provide for the children I was carrying. Vivian examined each image, her manicured finger swiping through 6 years of forced exile. Gregory never mentioned. Of course not. Men like Gregory Hollis don't mention the lives they rearrange. They just expect reality to conform to their preferences. You could have fought back. With what money? What lawyers? I was 25, pregnant with twins, and watching my family's legacy get dismantled by people who considered me an inconvenience. Tamara took her phone back. So I left. Started over in Harbour Point. Built something from nothing while raising two humans who ask hard questions about absence. And now your son knows they exist. That changes things, but not everything. Tamara stood, matching Vivian's height in determination if not expensive shoes. He can earn their trust if he's willing to work for it. Show up consistently, be present without cameras or corporate agenda. Prove he's more than his last name. You're setting conditions. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. And if we don't accept these boundaries, then you get nothing. No access, no photographs, no carefully orchestrated Hollis family Christmas cards with newly discovered grandchildren. Tamara moved to her front door. I survived 6 years without you. They thrived without knowledge of you. We can continue indefinitely. You'd deny them their heritage, the opportunities that come with being Hollis heirs. I'd deny them the trauma of being props in someone else's narrative. But if you want to be their grandmother, really be it, not just own the title, then earn it. Show up, be consistent, prove you value them as people, not as legacy accessories. Vivian's laugh was bitter as the November wind. You have no idea what you're refusing. I know exactly what I'm refusing. The question is whether you know what you're being offered, a chance to know. Two extraordinary children as themselves, not as extensions of your empire. Trent's rental car pulled up just as Vivian reached the porch steps. He took in the scene, his mother rigid with displeasure, Tamara defensive but steady, and made his choice without hesitation. He climbed the porch, stood beside Tamara. Mother, this isn't your conversation to have. Someone needs to think clearly about the consequences. Someone is, just not you. He positioned himself between them, subtle but definitive. Tamara and I will handle this. Tamara and you? Vivian's voice could have frozen flame. There is no Tamara and you. There's a situation requiring management. There are two children requiring parents who put them first. If you can't understand that distinction, you shouldn't be here. Movement in the sedan caught Tamara's eye. Gregory Hollis Sr. sat in the back seat, watching through tinted glass. Not intervening, just observing like this was a chess match he was scoring. Think about your position, Vivian warned her son. The board, the shareholders, the family reputation. I am thinking about my family, just not the way you define it. You'd choose them over everything we've built? I'd choose being their father over being your puppet, and I'd choose being the man who does right over being the CEO who protects the image. The words landed like a verdict. Vivian stepped back, composure cracking further. You don't understand the full implications. Then explain them. Or leave. She looked between them. Her son aligned with a woman she'd dismissed, grandchildren. Sleeping behind windows she couldn't enter without permission. Power had shifted, and Vivian Hollis didn't handle shifted power gracefully. 3 months, she said finally. You have 3 months before the board questions your judgment publicly, before investigations into your fitness begin. Before Maya Cortez receives more interesting information from interested parties. Is that a threat? It's a timeline. Use it wisely. She descended the stairs, each step measured as a retreat. In the car, she paused. They really look like you, Trent. Like your baby pictures. That will make it harder when this becomes a public spectacle. The sedan pulled away, Gregory's silhouette visible but motionless. Watching, calculating, planning next moves on board. Tamara couldn't see. She means it, Tamara said quietly. I know. 3 months isn't long enough to. It's long enough to prove what matters. He turned to her. If you'll let me. Elliot Crane called at 10:30, after Trent had left, and Tamara was stress-baking her third batch of midnight muffins. We have a problem, the lawyer said without preamble. The Hollis Industries executive contract contains a stability clause. Section 47B requires maintenance of public image conducive to corporate confidence. In English, scandal equals termination. Secret children definitely qualify as scandalous. Tamara sank onto her kitchen stool. So Vivian wasn't bluffing. The Hollis family doesn't bluff. They leverage it. Papers rustled through the phone, but there might be a workaround. Sabrina Wells, best PR strategist on the East Coast, suggests a soft launch. A what? Gradual introduction. Trent seen with you occasionally. Mentions unnamed friends in Cedar Ridge. Eventually acknowledges a relationship. Later reveals children. By then the public's acclimated. No scandal, just evolution. You want us to perform our lives for public consumption. I want to protect all parties involved. No. The word came out harder than intended. My children aren't PR campaigns. They go to school here, have friends, normal lives. They don't need their existence orchestrated for corporate comfort. Tamara, privacy first. That's non-negotiable. If Trent wants to be in their lives, it happens away from cameras and calculations. No soft launches or strategic reveals. Just real. As real as this situation can be, Elliot sighed. That's admirable, but potentially catastrophic. When this information surfaces, and it will, the shock value increases exponentially. Surprise scandals end careers. Then maybe he should choose different priorities. You're asking him to give up everything. I'm asking him to decide what everything means. Does it mean a title? Or does it mean 2 children who need a father more than the world needs another CEO? After she hung up, Tamara stood at her kitchen window watching the moon paint silver across her grandmother's garden. Somewhere in Philadelphia, lawyers and publicists were strategizing damage control. In Cedar Ridge, her children slept peacefully, unaware they'd become corporate liabilities. She shaped muffin number 36, blueberry lemon like her mother used to make for courage. The oven timer ticked toward midnight. Outside, a car drove slowly past, unusual for their quiet street. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was just a photo. The moment at the fair when Wren had touched Trent's face while he knelt in the grass. Clear, unmistakable, damning. Someone had been watching all along. A rumor trends by morning, and a leaked fair photo lands in Maya Cortez's inbox. By morning, Hollis' secret family was trending across 3 social media platforms. The leaked photo, grainy but unmistakable, showed Trent kneeling beside 2 children, whose faces were thankfully blurred by movement. Caption: Cedar Ridge source confirms. Hollis heirs hidden twins. Tamara's phone rang constantly. Neighbors pretending concern while fishing for details. Reporters offering opportunities to share your truth. Former classmates suddenly remembered their deep friendship. Sabrina Wells arrived at noon in a Tesla that looked alien on their modest street. She wore designer athletic wear that cost more than most mortgage payments. Carrying an iPad loaded with crisis management flowcharts. We need to control this narrative immediately, she announced, spreading devices across Tamara's kitchen table. I've drafted 3 response strategies. Option A involves a controlled interview with sympathetic media. No interviews. Option B features a family photo shoot with a trusted photographer. No photo shoots. Sabrina's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. You understand that silence lets others define your story. Others have been defining my story for 6 years. I survived. Tamara poured coffee into mismatched mugs, a deliberate contrast to Sabrina's polished presence. My children go to school tomorrow morning like normal. They play at the park. They help at the bakery. No cameras, no statements, no recorded moments for public consumption. That's impractical. The attention won't simply disappear because you ignore it. Maybe not. But my kids won't become content because adults need engagement metrics. Sabrina's laugh was sharp as her cheekbones. You think you're protecting them? Every moment of inaction creates a vacuum for speculation. By Thursday, they'll be victims of a custody battle. By Friday, products of an affair with a married man. Stories multiply without facts to contain them. Then let them multiply. People who matter know the truth. People who matter include Hollis Industries board members who vote on Trent's position. Without strategic messaging, he loses everything. Everything except his children. Noble, impractical, Children need resources that unemployment doesn't provide. Tamara met her gaze steadily. My children need a father who shows up, not a CEO who pencils them between mergers. If Trent has to choose between his title and his presence, that choice tells me everything about his priorities. Sabrina gathered her devices, each movement radiating disapproval. You're making a mistake. When this goes sideways, and it will, remember you chose pride over protection. After she left, Tamara stood at her window watching neighbors pretend not to stare. The mailman lingered, hoping for gossip. Mrs. Patterson walked her dog 4 times in an hour. Her phone buzzed. Trent, whatever happens, we handle it together. No cameras. Your rules. She typed back. Together. The word felt like a promise she wasn't sure either of them could keep. Tuesday morning arrived with September rain and minor catastrophe. Mr. Bunny's gone. Wren stood in the school parking lot, tears streaming. I left him in the office yesterday when the nurse fixed my scraped knee. Tamara checked her watch. Her shift at the bakery started in 20 minutes. The school office wouldn't open for another 15. Rain intensified, drumming against her umbrella. Baby, we'll get him after school. He'll be scared all day alone. Trent appeared from nowhere, or maybe from the rental car she hadn't noticed parked nearby. He wore jeans and a Syracuse hoodie, rain darkening his shoulders. Morning crisis? He asked quietly. Mr. Bunny's in the office, Rowan explained with 5-year-old seriousness. Wren needs him for nap time, or she gets the sad feelings. The office is closed, Tamara added, aware of other parents watching. Phones certainly ready. Trent knelt beside Wren, rain soaking through his jeans. What if I wait here? When the office opens, I'll get Mr. Bunny and bring him to your classroom. Would that help? Wren studied him through tears. You promise? I promise. Even if it takes a long time? Even then. She threw her arms around his neck, a gesture so trusting Tamara's heart cracked. Over Wren's head, Trent's eyes met hers, asking permission, making promises, acknowledging the weight of small trusts. Thank you, Tamara mouthed. He waited 43 minutes in the rain. When Mrs. Henderson finally opened the office, he stood in line behind 3 other parents, no special treatment demanded. He filled out the visitor's form completely, submitted to the security check, and walked to Wren's kindergarten classroom like any other parent would. Tamara heard about it later from Wren's teacher, Miss Patricia. He didn't mention who he was, just said he was dropping off something important for Wren. She hugged that rabbit and told everyone Mr. Trent saved him. It was lovely, so normal. That evening, Tamara found Trent still in the school parking lot, laptop, balanced on his steering wheel, taking a board call from his car. You stayed? He muted his phone. Promised Wren I'd wave when she came out. Couldn't break that. He gestured at his laptop. Mobile offices work anywhere. Through his car window, she saw spreadsheets, projections, the architecture of corporate power, and her daughter's crayon drawing taped to his dashboard, a rainbow with "Thank you for saving Mr. Bunny" in careful kindergarten letters. The board's not happy about the rumors, he said simply. But Wren needed her rabbit. Priorities. She believed him then, maybe for the first time since the fair. That night, while the twins slept and rain continued its percussion against windows, Trent spread papers across Tamara's kitchen table, not PR strategies but business plans. If I'm staying in Cedar Ridge, really staying, things need to change. He pointed to incorporation documents, starting with Hollis Industries structure. You're restructuring a billion-dollar company for the chance to coach Little League and attend school plays without board approval. Yes. He showed her employee policies he'd drafted, flexible schedules for all parents, on-site childcare at every facility, family-first protocols that mean something beyond lip service. Your board will revolt, probably. But here's the interesting part. He pulled up Cedar Ridge zoning maps on his tablet. The distribution center could house more than packages. Food innovation lab, commercial kitchens for small businesses, incubator space for local entrepreneurs. That's not what your grandfather envisioned. My grandfather envisioned profits. I'm envisioning a community, something that lasts beyond quarterly earnings. He showed her architectural drawings. Vaughan and Vine could anchor the food hall, not as a tenant, but as a partner. 30% stake in the entire project. Tamara stared at the plans. Professional test kitchens where home bakers could scale recipes, loading docks designed. For farmers market vendors, classroom space for teaching business skills to aspiring entrepreneurs. This would transform Cedar Ridge. It would transform me. He met her eyes across the table, scattered with reimagined futures. I've built empires that felt empty. Maybe it's time to build something that matters. The board will never approve this. Then I'll find investors who will. Connor Matthews from college runs an impact fund. Jennifer Chen focuses on rural development. Marcus has connections in sustainable business. There are ways forward that don't require my grandfather's approval. You'd walk away from your family's company for this. I'd walk away from their version of success. But I'd be building something better, something Rowan and Wren could be proud of, something that honors your mother's memory and your grandmother's recipes instead of destroying them. She traced the blueprint with one finger, seeing possibility in architectural lines. When would you start? Already started. Connor's reviewing the proposal. Jennifer's team visits next week. He gathered the papers carefully. But nothing moves forward without your agreement. This only works if we're partners. Business partners. All kinds of partners eventually. If you'll let me earn that. She didn't answer directly. Couldn't with her heart do complicated mathematics. Instead, show me the test kitchen plans again. If we're doing this, I want professional-grade ovens and a workflow that makes sense for actual bakers. His smile was sunrise breaking through storm clouds. Over the next 3 weeks, Trent became landscape instead of visitor. He appeared at school pickup without announcement, knew which twin needed snacks immediately and which preferred to decompress quietly first. He learned Rowan's basketball practice schedule and Wren's library days. When Tamara worked late at the bakery, she'd return to find dishes done, homework, supervised elaborate blanket forts constructed in her living room. "You made cocoa," Wren announced one evening, displaying her marshmallow mustache proudly, "with real whipped cream and everything." "Mr. Trent says cocoa without whipped cream is just sad chocolate water," Rowan added. Bouncing on the couch, they'd transformed into a pirate ship. No photographers captured these moments. No social media documented their slow evolution toward something that might be family. Trent's phone stayed silent during bedtime stories. Board calls waited until after goodnight kisses. "You're different," Tamara observed one night after the twins were asleep. They sat on her porch, sharing comfortable silence and chamomile tea. "Not performing anymore. This is who I wanted to be 6 years ago. It just took me this long to figure out how. Your mother called me yesterday. Offer 10 million to disappear again." His jaw tightened. "And I told her I couldn't disappear from my own life. Then I hung up and made Rage Donuts until 3 a.m. Rage Donuts? Kneading dough is excellent anger management. Very therapeutic." She pulled her knees to her chest, looking younger in the porch light. "She's not wrong, though. Your world and mine. They don't naturally overlap. They are here, on this porch, in this town. With these kids." He turned to her. "I've drafted resignation letters 3 times this week. Each time I pictured telling Rowan and Wren that I chose board meetings over their soccer games. Can't do it. The vote's tomorrow. I know. If you lose the CEO position, then I lose it." His certainty felt solid as the porch boards beneath them. "But I won't lose them. Or you. Not again. Not for any title." She wanted to warn him about the cost of such choices, about pride and poverty and principles. Instead, she reached across the space between them, took his hand. "We'll be at the park tomorrow at 2. Regular spot by the duck pond. After the board vote. After whatever happens, you'll still be the man who saved Mr. Bunny in the rain. That matters more than any title." He squeezed her hand, holding on like she was gravity itself. Tomorrow would bring corporate drama and public consequences. Tonight, they sat on a porch in Cedar Ridge, being exactly who they were meant to be. If this turning point hits you, share this with someone who needs a little courage today, and subscribe. New Mr. Steele rich stories every week. Tomorrow's board vote tests everything. and Hollis walks in ready to lose the title to keep the family. The Hollis Industries boardroom occupied the 40th floor, all glass and gravity, where decisions affecting thousands got made between coffee refills. 12 board members sat around imported Italian marble, their faces ranging from curious to condemning. Elliot Crane stood at the presentation screen, Section 47B highlighted in corporate blue. "The stability clause is unambiguous," Elliot stated. "Public scandal affecting corporate confidence triggers immediate review of executive fitness." "Having children isn't a scandal," Trent said from his position at the table's head. "It's life. Secret children revealed through social media leaks." Margaret Stonefield, longest-serving board member, removed her reading glasses. "That's a textbook scandal, Mr. Hollis. Then let's discuss solutions." Richard Vail pulled up his tablet. "The Wells firm suggests gradual integration, controlled narrative. We minimize impact through strategic revelation." "No." The word dropped into their calculations, like a stone in still water. Trent stood, walked to the window overlooking Philadelphia's skyline. "I won't minimize my children, won't strategize their existence for stock prices. They're 5-year-olds who like dinosaurs and paper airplanes, not corporate liabilities requiring management." "Then you leave us little choice," Margaret said. "The clause exists for reasons. I know why it exists." Trent turned back to them. "To ensure leadership prioritizes company stability over personal complexity. So here's my proposal. I resign, effective immediately. My brother Marcus can resume executive duties while you find someone whose life fits your requirements better." Silence settled over the room like expensive dust. "You'd walk away from everything?" Richard's disbelief carried across marble and ambition. "I'd walk toward something better. My children deserve a father who shows up, not one who hides them for shareholder comfort." "That won't be necessary." Gregory Hollis Sr. entered without ceremony, moving slowly but deliberately, age making him careful rather than weak. Marcus followed, having flown in overnight from Tokyo at his grandfather's request. "Gregory," Margaret stood, others following. "We weren't expecting." "Board votes affecting my grandson require my presence." He took his reserved seat, the one left empty for 3 years since his official retirement. "Continue, Elliot." "Sir, the stability clause." "I wrote that clause. 1987, different era, different mistakes." Gregory's eyes found his grandson. "We thought leadership meant distance, sacrifice meant absence, built empires while missing birthdays. Call it success." He pulled out his phone, surprising everyone. The screen showed a photograph, young Gregory with 2 boys at some long-ago Christmas. "My son James was 7 here. Asked me that morning if I loved the company more than him. I said the company provided for him, which wasn't really an answer." His voice carried decades of recognition. "He died at 32, heart attack at his desk, following my example perfectly. I lost him twice, once to my priorities, once to their consequences." The room held its breath. Trent proposes something revolutionary, leadership that includes life, policies that let parents parent. "I've reviewed his restructuring plan. It's financially sound and morally overdue. The shareholders," Margaret began, "will adapt or exit." Gregory's authority hadn't diminished with retirement. "We're voting on more than my grandson's position. We're voting on whether Hollis Industries evolves or calcifies into irrelevance." Marcus spoke for the first time. Asian markets responded positively to leaked proposals about family-first policies. Retention projections improve by 32%. Recruitment costs decrease. It's not just ethical, it's profitable. Trent activated the presentation screen, replacing clause citations with human faces. 6 months ago, I quietly implemented flexible scheduling in our Pittsburgh facility. Charts appeared. Productivity up 8%, sick days down 12%, retention at historic highs. Parents could attend school plays. Employees could make medical appointments. Humans could be whole. Video testimonials played. Sarah Martinez, single mother, warehouse supervisor. "I haven't missed a parent-teacher conference since the change. My daughter's grades improved. I'm not choosing between paycheck and presence anymore. Robert Chen, accounting. My father died thinking I valued spreadsheets over family. Now I coach my son's team and still exceed targets. Presence and productivity aren't opposites. Marcus Washington, security, 20 years here. For the first time I felt like a person instead of a position number. These aren't anomalies, Trent continued. They're evidence that treating employees as humans improves everything. Morale, output, public perception, bottom line. Richard pulled up his calculator, running numbers. The implementation costs are offset by reduced turnover, decreased training expenses, improved employer brand reputation. Trent handed out portfolio folders. Connor Matthews' Impact Fund commits $50 million conditional on Family First policy adoption. Jennifer Chen's group adds $30 million for the Cedar Ridge Innovation Center. We're not losing capital, we're redirecting it towards sustainable growth. Margaret studied the numbers, pencil tapping against marble. You've thought this through extensively, for 6 years, unknowingly. Every decision that prioritized profit over people led here, to this room, this choice. He returned to his seat. I'm not asking you to approve of my personal life. I'm asking you to approve a future where Hollis Industries leads through humanity rather than despite it. While board members deliberated in whispered clusters, Trent pulled a napkin from the coffee. Service, his fingers moving automatically into folds Tamara had taught him 6 years ago. What are you doing? Margaret asked. Remembering who I wanted to be. The crane took shape, precise wings, elegant neck. 6 years ago, I met someone who made these during her mother's cancer treatments, said it gave hands something hopeful to do while waiting. He set the completed crane on the marble between quarterly projections and stability clauses. I fell in love with her in a diner that smelled like bacon and possibility. She showed me Cedar Ridge from the water tower, taught me that recipes aren't just ingredients, they're inheritance. I lost her because I couldn't reconcile two worlds that seemed incompatible. Gregory reached across, picked up the paper crane with careful fingers. Your grandmother made these. During the Depression, said empty hands invited despair. The woman I love learned from her mother. Now she's teaching our children. Trent looked around the table. That's the legacy I want to build. One where boardrooms include paper cranes, where executive schedules accommodate school plays, where success means raising humans who know they matter more than mergers. Vivian Hollis stood in the doorway, unannounced and unexpected. She'd been listening, her expression unreadable as winter weather. Call the vote, she said simply. Margaret glanced between mother and son. All in favor of retaining Trent Hollis as Chief Strategy Officer under reformed Family First policies. Hands rose, slowly at first, then decisively. 10 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. Vivian hadn't voted at all, but she hadn't voted against him either. The press waited outside like circling hawks, Maya Cortez front and center with her phone already recording. Mr. Hollis, can you confirm the existence of twin children? I can confirm that Hollis Industries is implementing revolutionary family-first policies. He stopped, addressing the cameras directly. We're building a company that lets parents be present, that values whole humans over compartmentalized employees. But the children are 5-year-olds who deserve privacy and normal childhoods. Next question. Sources say you've been hiding them for years. Sources are misinformed. I learned about them recently and am grateful for the chance to know them. He kept moving toward his car. Hollis Industries will release full policy details tomorrow. The story isn't about my personal life. It's about professional evolution that benefits thousands of families. Maya pushed closer. The mother, Tamara Vaughan, was forced to leave Cedar Ridge 6 years ago. Can you comment? Trent stopped. Behind him, Vivian emerged from the building, her presence shifting the energy instantly. Miss Vaughan is a successful business owner who built something remarkable while raising 2 extraordinary children. Any other narrative is fiction. His voice carried a warning. And fiction has legal consequences. Vivian stepped forward. The cameras swung toward her, sensing bigger prey. Mrs. Hollis, do you approve of your son's choices? She looked at Trent, something shifting in her expression, Not warmth exactly, but perhaps the absence of winter's harshest edge. I approve of Hollis Industries remaining profitable while progressive. My son's personal life is his own, as it should be. She walked past them all, her driver ready with an open door. But Trent saw her pause, saw her look back once. Saturday morning arrived with October sunshine and the smell of pine from the candle Lila always burned during autumn weekends. Trent stood at Tamara's stove, spatula in hand, batter dripping onto burners, while two 5-year-olds provided enthusiastic coaching. "Higher!" Rowan bounced on his step stool. "Mr. Trent, flip it higher." The flip went spectacular, and spectacularly wrong. The pancake folded mid-air, landing in an approximate butterfly shape. "It's abstract," Wren declared, wielding vocabulary from yesterday's art class. "Like when Mrs. Murphy says our paintings show feelings instead of things." "What feeling is that pancake?" Tamara asked, entering the kitchen with her coffee. Wren studied it solemnly. "Happy but confused, like when you find your favorite toy but can't remember where you left it." "Perfect description." Trent slid the abstract pancake onto Wren's plate. "Happy but confused pancakes taste better anyway." Rowan demanded his own flip attempt, managing to spray batter across 3 surfaces before creating something vaguely circular. His celebration dance knocked over orange juice, which sent the cat scrambling, which made Wren laugh so hard she snorted. "Saturday mornings are chaos," Tamara warned, mopping juice with practiced efficiency. "Best kind of chaos," Trent replied, catching Rowan mid-bounce before he toppled off the stool. "Beats board meetings by miles." She watched him navigate her kitchen, her life, with increasing comfort. 7 weeks since the fair. 7 weeks of showing up, staying present, choosing them over everything easier. "Mr. Trent?" Wren tugged his shirt. "Will you teach me the backwards airplane today?" "If your mom says yes." They both looked at her, hope identical in different faces. "After pancakes," she agreed, "and after dishes." "I'll do the dishes," Rowan volunteered, then reconsidered. "Wren helps though." "Deal," Wren said seriously, like they were negotiating international treaties. "Normal. Beautifully, impossibly normal." Outside, autumn leaves fell like blessings. Inside, syrup stuck to everything. And somehow, that felt exactly right. After breakfast, while the twins constructed elaborate paper airplane hangers from couch cushions, Trent found Tamara on the back porch, reviewing bakery orders in the morning light. "Busy season?" He sat beside her, close but not presuming. Harvest Fair was just the beginning. Halloween, Thanksgiving, then the Christmas avalanche. She showed him order forms. Vaughan and Vine can barely keep up. The Innovation Center could help. Commercial kitchens, storage space, distribution infrastructure. "Your board approved funding yesterday?" "Unanimously." "Ground breaks in spring." He pulled blueprints from his jacket. "Your input shaped every detail. Teaching kitchen for aspiring bakers. Rental units for small businesses scaling up. Community gathering space because commerce without community is just transaction." She studied the plans, seeing her suggestions transformed into architectural reality. "You really listened." "I'm learning to." He set the blueprints aside. "Tamara, I need to ask you something." Her hands stilled on the papers. "These 7 weeks, showing up, being present, earning trust, it's everything I should have done years ago. But I need to know if there's a possibility for us, not just as CO parents, but as..." He paused, choosing words carefully. "As whatever we could become if we're brave enough to try." She looked at him, really looked. Saw the man who'd waited in the rain for a stuffed rabbit, who'd chosen paper airplanes over profit projections, who'd stood before his board and offered everything rather than hide his children. "I'm scared," she admitted, "of hoping, of building something that could shatter again, of teaching them to trust someone who might choose easier options when hard comes calling." "I'm scared too." He reached for her hand, slow enough she could pull away. She didn't. "But maybe we will be scared together while building something anyway." Inside, Rowan shouted about achieving flight. Wren corrected his aerodynamics with 5-year-old precision. Slow, Tamara said finally. Real slow. They come first, always, always, he agreed. She leaned into him then, just slightly, just enough. He kissed her forehead, soft as morning, careful as promised. Slow, she repeated, but her hand tightened in his. As slow as you need. But her smile said, maybe slow was already happening. Maybe something slow had been happening since Mr. Bunny. Since cocoa with real whipped cream. Since he chose presents over every title they could offer. Love isn't a dramatic gesture or a grand return. Love is Saturday pancakes and Wednesday homework. Showing up is inconvenient. It's choosing presents over presentations, every single day until days become years, become lifetime. Boundaries don't diminish love. They make it possible. Tamara's insistence on privacy protected what mattered. Her refusal to perform their lives for public consumption kept their foundations solid. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no to what would damage yes. Real influence isn't about personal gain. It's about lifting others with whatever leverage you hold. Trent could have fought for his position alone. Instead, he transformed corporate structure to benefit thousands. Power means nothing if it doesn't empower others. Children don't need perfect parents. They need presence. They need adults who choose them over easier options, who value bedtime stories over stock. Options, who understand that missing a school play creates wounds that money can't heal. The myth says love conquers all. The truth says love commits to all. The mundane Tuesdays, the hard conversations, the slow work of rebuilding after breaking. Love doesn't conquer, it continues. Every empire begins with a single choice, what matters most. For some, it's profit margins and market dominance. But for those who understand real wealth, the empire looks like Saturday morning, pancakes with people who know your worst mistakes and choose you anyway. That's not a fairy tale ending. It's a daily practice beginning. And it's enough, more than enough. It's everything. 1 year later, the Cedar Ridge Innovation Center's grand opening drew food entrepreneurs from 6 states. The teaching kitchen gleamed with professional equipment. The community hall displayed local art between industrial windows. Everything smelled like possibility and fresh bread. Tamara stood at the podium, Vaughan and Vine's logo prominent behind her. My grandmother believed recipes were an inheritance meant for sharing. Today we continue that tradition. She announced the mentorship program, 12 slots for aspiring bakers, full scholarships, equipment access, business training. Applications had already exceeded 300. None of this exists without partnership, she continued, finding Trent in the crowd. He stood with the twins, Rowan on his shoulders, Wren holding his hand. 6-year-olds now, confident and curious. Sometimes the best things come from the hardest beginnings. Afterward, while the twins played with other children and Trent discussed expansion with investors, an unexpected visitor appeared. Vivian Hollis, dressed in clothes that cost merely hundreds instead of thousands, approached Tamara at the dessert table. "The lavender scones," she said quietly. "I'd like to order 12 dozen for a fundraiser." "Which fundraiser?" "I'm starting a foundation, supporting single mothers pursuing education and entrepreneurship." Vivian's composure softened slightly. "I wasn't always wealthy. Before I married into the Hollis family, I was 19 with a baby, Marcus, waiting. Tables, watching other people's dreams manifest, while mine collected dust." Tamara studied her. This woman who'd tried to buy her absence, who'd valued bloodlines over heartbeats. "Does the foundation have a name?" "Second chances." Vivian met her eyes. "We all need them, don't we? I'm learning that slower than I should, but learning nonetheless." Before Tamara could respond, Wren appeared, tugging Vivian's jacket. Grandma Vivian, come see what I made." The word, Grandma, landed like grace. Vivian's eyes filled, her hand trembling as she took Wren's small fingers. "Show me, darling." They walked away together, grandmother and granddaughter, building bridges across chasms that had seemed permanent. Rowan found Tamara moments later. "Dad says we're getting pizza for dinner. The kind with the puffy crust." Dad. Not Mr. Trent anymore. Just Dad. Tamara found Trent's eyes across the crowd. He'd heard it too. His smile was sunrise breaking. "Yeah, baby," she said, pulling Rowan close. "Pizza sounds perfect. If this story moved you, like and share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to Mr. Steele Rich Stories and drop your one-line lesson below. I'm pinning the sharpest take. Not forgiveness, not yet, but not sabotage either. A beginning perhaps, or the possibility of one. He keeps the seat, but titles don't earn trust. Tamara waits on the porch with a question only she can answer.